So today we're going to talk about our Inventory Plus solution. This solution is kind of broken up into two different modules. We have our inventory side and then also our maintenance module. I'll go through the inventory side in the first probably 15 minutes here and then spend most of the time on the maintenance utility, as that's much more kind of complex and can get more in-depth. Here right now I am on the home dashboard of the inventory page. On the left is our toolbar, and then we have the tiles here of the quick dashboard. A quick way to see recent activity of who's doing what, to what inventory item and when. We can see right now that this is actually an active user, and we've had inventory being changed in the last couple of hours. Other just quick snippets of information of specific inventory items being added, active users, and active inventory locations. So inventory is a location-based software. That said, every single inventory item must have a unique serial number. That unique serial number must belong to a specific model, which is set to a specific manufacturer and lives at a location. All of this also has a category to kind of group models together, for instance, a pressure transducer, solar panels, and things of that nature. So what I'm going to do, we're going to dive into it. I'm going to click the locations button here, and we can see that we are at the locations page. I'm going to hide our toolbar here. Just like Contrail, we have the breadcrumb here at the top, which lets us know where we are within the software, and we'll use that significantly here as we dive deeper into some of these inventory items. Just a quick snapshot of our locations, 204 locations for this customer, a brief map, and all the locations are listed down below. So if needed to add more, the green buttons are always action items. You can click the green button to add a different location, give it latitudes, longitudes, things of that nature. Also, bulk importing is available. Let's now dive to a specific location. I'm going to go to Howard Berry because I'm a little familiar with this location. So as you see, the breadcrumb has expanded. We are now at the Howard Berry weather station location. Just like Contrail in the admin, it's tile-based. Thus, if you're looking on your smartphone or a tablet, all this will resize to your device. This is specifically useful in the field when performing maintenance or gathering information about the site and pulling this information up on your phone. Here we have a description of the site. This can be open-ended to how the client or customer wants to input it. In this case, it's the ID of the specific location. We have tags outlined below. Tags are another way to tag specific inventory items, models, worksheets, things of that nature, locations, in a way that the software may not do it for you. We'll investigate the tags a little bit later, but think of this as maybe tagging sites that go through a repeater or sites that go through or a specific round of maintenance. Anything of that nature, you can be creative with your tags. Below that, we have open-ended notes. For this instance, these notes are used for access to this location, right? We want to make sure that this software is a one-stop shop for all the information that we need. Our field service team has been using it for several years now, and all the information that you need to know about a specific location, history, maintenance, and access is all within the software. If we continue down, we have the tile down here of inventory items. We see that there are 7 inventory items at this location: serial number, manufacturer, model, and then the category here on the right. Top right tile is a picture. By clicking the picture, it'll open up in another tab. You can have multiple images within a location. Quick snapshot of the area. Clicking the navigate button will bring up Google Maps and navigate you to the location. This is specifically of use in the field, going to multiple sites. And I want to point out files here at the bottom. So you can upload files to a location. This is specifically helpful for configurations, setup tools, maybe past maintenance, anything that may be specific to a location. You can upload those files here. Edit drop down at the top, right, gives you all your action items to edit, address tags, and activity. I'll show activity here shortly. And it gives you the history of the location and specific inventory items as well. You can have multiple images, and you can have multiple files just by clicking the upload button. You can select and name your file to upload. So we're going to come back to the location page here shortly. There is this up tile bar here, which is our maintenance utility. We will discuss that more on the maintenance side, but it brings the maintenance utility in correspondence to your location. So it kind of gives you that cross between knowing the inventory at that site and specific information and maintenance information. Going back to the hierarchy, let's take a look at manufacturers and step our way down to a serial number. We are going to click High Sierra Transmitter at this location, and it brings us to the manufacturer page. You can see that here in the breadcrumb. Per this client, they have 17 models associated with this manufacturer, all outlined here below. Again, canned images can be uploaded and specific contact information. This may be your sales rep, locations, RMA processes can all be uploaded to the manufacturer page. Again, at a drop-down, you can add tags, upload additional files or images that may need it. You may have a specific PO that you use. You can upload those files for templates as well. All right, so now that we are at the manufacturer page, let's go a step further and go to the model. So we're going to click the 3306 transmitter right here, and we are now at the model page. Again, this is seen here in the breadcrumb. We have the model, the part number, its category. We have this categorized as a transmitter. I will bring this together with category here shortly. And then we have all of the items associated with this model. For this client, we have 22 individual serial numbers of this specific model, and you can see the locations here on the right. We do have the ability here to upload images and files, as we've seen at all the other locations. The one thing that I do want to point out with models are files that are uploaded at the model page and images that are uploaded at the model page proceed down to the inventory item, right? For this instance, we have the manual. So if you're in the field and you need to reference something, we can easily click the manual. You can view it inside inventory or click the download button to get the actual PDF. This is extremely useful that you only have to upload the manual once, and when you're at a specific inventory item, you will see that file brought down to the inventory item along with that picture. So very useful. All of models, data sheets, calibrations, it's nice to upload those once and then be able to reference those easily in the field. Also with models, there's something called attributes. So attributes are a way to classify and define a model or inventory item in more detail. In this instance, this is an alert to site, so we have the alert to attributes for that transmitter set up as, or the alert to attributes is set up as the attributes. However, think of this as maybe your pressure transducer. You have a pressure transducer and you have an attribute of cable length. So then you know that you can enter that the cable length is 300 feet. So if you have a PT fail in the field, you know based on the attribute that you need to bring a 300-foot cable out there to replace it. We can click here to edit additional attributes. You can have them filled with default predefined, options, enable, and then another one is required where you can't actually save the inventory item without inputting the attribute. Adding attributes is pretty simple here with add button, put in the name, default. And then one thing I should show about options is options, instead of having an open character return for maybe what the attribute is, but putting options, maybe it's, what's the output of a PT, you have FDI 12, separated by a comma will then allow you to do a drop down. So it forces the user when they input this attribute values that you're forced to either input SDI 12 or 4 to 20. It takes away that open box of character entry. The good thing, the significant thing about attributes is that you can use the report tool to run reports on them. Think of this as you have an attribute for firmware and you find out that a specific firmware has a bug in it and you need to update all the firmware at those sites. Well, you can easily run a report against that firmware and you'll understand what models or what locations you need to be visited to update that firmware. All right, so continuing on, we're going to dive now to the specific inventory item, right? A unique serial number. I'm going to use Howard Berry since we were looking at that before, so I will click the serial number. Again, the breadcrumb, very important. We can follow that to know where we're at. Howard Berry's the location, manufacturer, model, and the serial number. The solution, the inventory solution needs the inventory item to be unique, right? You can't have duplicates of a serial number. We do allow just a handful of duplicates. Those are N/A for not applicable or NSN for no serial number. Think of this as areas where you want to document what the solar panel is or what the item is at that location. However, the inventory item may have worn off or things of that nature. You can also assign your own serial number as well. But now looking at this inventory item, we can see that those attributes have been filled out. We see that the manual has proceeded down to this location in the image as well. We can also upload files to the specific location or the specific inventory item that are specific for just this item. However, it will show down here along with the manual that's at the model level. At the edit dropdown, we can edit attributes. And to just show you the dropdown, so instead of having open-ended, that comma in there allows me to do a dropdown to change the allotted frequency. This is very helpful when you're in the field, right? If you're maybe working on a smartphone or something of that nature, you can easily just select a dropdown. Also, things to note, inventory location is tags, activity. Activity is to know the history. This is a newer site. It was just added and installed 10 months ago, so not much activity here. We see Felix Zamora, so we know who added this inventory item 10 months ago. To kind of give you an example of where activity is more useful, let's go to locations. And let's just pick a site that's been in for quite some time. And maybe this tipping bucket. So again, right, we have our breadcrumb. We know where we're at. We're at a specific inventory item with a unique serial number of 23294. Using the edit dropdown, I can click activity, and I have the full history of everything that's changed with this tipping bucket since it was used and up to 9 years ago. So, we know who did it, where it was moved. It was moved from storage to a different location 5 years ago. I can get the exact date. So a good way to know the history of specific items when notes are changed, things of that nature. So let's go back on our breadcrumb to that location, and I will show you the activity at the location page. Right, so we get also what has changed at that location over time. So a very useful tool to understand who did what, when, and the history of it. Go back to that location. There's also, which we'll dive into here shortly on the maintenance side, but we have the full maintenance history at these locations as well with the maintenance activity. So think of activity or changes that are made to this inventory in and out, or changes to the notes description, or the history of the location of that item. The maintenance history will be documented here with workbooks and worksheets, which we'll talk about here on the maintenance side. I'm going to hit and bring out the toolbar here, and just to look a little bit more at the inventory items. We've covered, the locations, manufacturers, models. I want to cover two last things before we switch over to the maintenance side, and that is categories and tags. So clicking categories, right, it's a way to group certain items together. Pressure transducers, transmitters, GPS antennas, right? You may have a variety of pressure transducers in your system. So let's just click that. And by clicking pressure transducers, we can see that this customer has 15 different models in their system. Not all of these may be still active. However, we get the complete idea of all the different models, and we can get all the inventory items. So 191 pressure transducers are within this client or customer. We can drop down, and we also see the location of all these items. We do create a location for scrap. Highly recommend that. Instead of deleting the item if it fails, moving it to the scrap location so you don't lose that history. Also, you can do analysis then on that point if you may have higher failure rate of a certain manufacturer, things of that nature. All right. Lastly, on the inventory side, let's discuss tags. All right, tags are just an easy way of how to filter or sort in maybe a way that the software doesn't allow. Multiple things can be tagged, maybe location, model, inventory items, anything of that nature. In this instance, I know for this customer that Blue Mountain is a repeater. I can click that tag and I know all the locations that go through that repeater. I can easily add and remove sites from this and also run a report from it. So in reports, I can export this tag into maybe an Excel sheet or anything of that nature for more analysis. Think about it as maintenance rounds. I want to know all the sites that are maintained in round 3. Again, I can see all these locations here. Clicking the location, again, looking at our breadcrumb, all the different tags, very easily to add tags by just either, typing and we can see the new tag added, or we can delete it as well. Adding a new tag is as simple as going to the tag and naming that tag so you can start appending it to inventory items, locations, and so forth. All right, that is the inventory side of the application. It is pretty self-explanatory. Once you start clicking around, it's your inventory tracker, remembering that it's location-based software, and kind of the hierarchy of serial number, models, manufacturers, and appended to that location. There are bulk uploads to make it easier when importing, and also copy tools as well. If you are adding a significant amount of a specific inventory item, right, you can easily copy this item, change the serial number, change the notes, and append it to a different location. So we try to make inventory import as simple as possible. To start off, there's a bulk import, but then if you have a large shipment of a specific item, you can easily just copy that item with additional serial number to that location. All right, so let's dive into the maintenance side. So the maintenance utility was added a few years after the inventory development. So the maintenance side is a way to schedule, track, assign all types of maintenance for your system. It is completely customizable. I will say it does take the setup time to configure it correctly or to meet your needs. Takes a little bit of time, which OneRain is happy to assist and help with, but we can easily tailor the application to meet how you may perform maintenance or how it works for your system. So let's just go over the dashboard real quick, and then we'll kind of dive into all the different maintenance items and the nomenclature of how things are defined. So on the dashboard, we have just our few tiles of work orders, workbooks, worksheets, and a report that's run. This tile right here shows open work orders. So I can see who they're assigned to, when it was signed, and when it's due. And then also this tile down here are specific work orders that are assigned to the user. In this case, I am logged in as OneRain, not as a specific individual. However, if a work order is assigned to you, this tile will display all work orders that are open and assigned to myself. If you have no work orders assigned to you, this tile will disappear. Over here, just a summary of maintenance by type. This is a good way to just verify, hey, obviously you'd hope that most of your maintenance is preventative maintenance and that breakdown maintenance isn't, a higher priority or a higher percentage in your system. And then maintenance by location. For this customer, there's a lot of bench testing. So it's at a warehouse location where we are calibrating rain gauges and bench testing all transmitters. So it kind of skews the data here, but we can get an idea of locations that have the highest amount of maintenance assigned or performed to it. All right, so let's discuss the nomenclature here of work orders, workbooks, and worksheets. Um, Worksheets is maintenance performed at an inventory item. A worksheet is a group of tasks or items, or sorry, of tasks. So think of it, if it's a battery, you'll have a task of read the battery voltage. Task 2, maybe load test the battery. Task 3, maybe visually inspect the battery, right? Those groups of 3 tasks make up a worksheet. So a worksheet is maintenance performed on an item. Workbooks is a collection of worksheets. So think of your workbooks as maintenance performed on a location. So a workbook would have multiple worksheets on it, one for maybe the solar panel, transmitter, your sensors, and so forth. So worksheets, inventory item, workbooks, a collection of worksheets, so think of it as site maintenance. All of these are defined also by the maintenance type. So you need to define, is it preventative maintenance? Is it breakdown maintenance? Is it bench testing? Is it calibration? Again, all customizable to how you do your maintenance and how you set up your system. And I'll show you those setup features towards the end. Work orders is kind of separate from your workbooks and worksheets. Think of work orders as a way to schedule maintenance, track breakdowns or improvements. It doesn't have the tasks of actual performing maintenance, but a way to kind of track larger scale projects and items and scheduling. So enough talk about kind of the hierarchy of the maintenance. Let's dive into work orders and then show you the maintenance utility on sites. All right, so now I am at the work orders dashboard. We have a quick view of open, active, inactive, and overdue work orders and a graph of, work orders added and when they are closed. We have a complete history of all work orders here. Again, this is filterable by who it's assigned to, its type, and its current status. To make this more simple, I'm just going to add a work order and I'll kind of give you the full picture. So let's say we have a work order that we had a rain event and clogged rain gauges. So I give it a title and I will say data analysis after rain event shows clogged tipping buckets. Right, so we know that some of these tipping buckets are clogged after a rain event. So let's put this type, this is again all your customizable work order types. This is defined by the user. Let's put this one as emergency repairs and breakdown, right? Our gauges are clogged, so we're not getting good readings. We're going to say this is a high priority, right? We want to get these gauges working. It's currently open. However, we can assign it, waiting approval. Again, this is all customizable by the end user. Actually, let's put this one as assigned. So we'll give it, we'll assign it to someone. Start date is today, and let's say this needs done by the end of the week. All right, and then I'm actually going to assign it. We'll assign it to OneRain. And what it does when it assigns, right, it'll show, now this work order will show up in that tile, right, on the dashboard. But it also, if you click on email notification, whoever it is assigned to, that user, the email address associated with that user will get an email saying this work order is created. You'll get an email when the work order is edited and changed. And it keeps you up to date to know that it's assigned. Think of this as, maybe the admin is assigning work to the field technicians, right? They can go through here, tell what needs done, and assign it to that person. Notes, we'll just say double mass plot showed low rain, and we can save that. So now I'm at the work order page. I have the notes here, and when it was created, again, the other users can add notes. Let's say storm or could not get to Apex location. Will go back next week. So if you have multiple people working on this, you can add multiple notes to get the full history, and you'll see the user. Right now I'm logged in as OneRain, but this could be a specific individual and when that edit was done. Finally, I want to show you the link page. So right now the work order is only showed on the maintenance side, but maybe you want to link that. So we had all these rain gauges. Let's link it to, Apex. We'll say that one was clogged. And maybe multiple locations. I'm going to link it to Bear Peak. So now we know that a rain event happened. We did data analysis with the double mass plot, and we know rain gauges are clogged, and these are the 2 rain gauges. So you assign it to someone, and then they know to go to these locations, and you can perform work. Right? This could be breakdown maintenance. Since it's not preventive maintenance, you go down and you do breakdown maintenance to unclog that rain gauge. What also this does is, let's go back to the location. And before, remember this dashboard I showed up here that I kind of glossed over, we now see that there is an open work order. So if you are at this location, or let's say you're just on your normal preventative maintenance round, and you're at the field tech is at this location, they look at this page, this will bring it to their attention of, oh, hey, wait, there is something that needs done or is wrong with this location. You can click that. It brings me back to the work order page, and I can get that information, right, of, hey, rain analysis and it's a clock tipping bucket. So you can link multiple things, locations, items, and another work order, and you can also link workbooks and worksheets. Once you maybe perform the emergency maintenance, you want to attach that workbook to this work order so you have that full history of exactly what was performed to solve this issue. Edit dropdown, we can go back to the work order when work is complete, right? We can just change the status to close complete. All right. Again, looking at the breadcrumb, let's just go look at all work orders. And then another way to just filter, we're at the work order page. I only want to see the status of open work orders. And I want to see all the open work orders assigned to a specific individual. Oops, and let's make sure our status keeps staying open. Right, and I now have all work orders assigned to a specific individual. There are 18 of them, their due dates, and things of that nature. So all of this is sortable, kind of give a better idea. And again, there's also the reports feature where you can run reports off of this information to export it. Okay, so let's go back to the maintenance dashboard and kind of discuss workbooks and worksheets. The easiest way to kind of show this is performing work on a site. Let me show you that, and then we'll kind of go into the setup of this. So let's go back to locations, and let's go back to that Howard Berry site. All right, so now I'm at the Howard Berry location. We have the history. This site was just recently installed, so we don't have much history up here. It looks like 2 maintenance trips have been to the site. So clicking by workbooks, look, I can see, individuals of when they performed maintenance on this site. So I have that history. But also now that I'm on the workbooks page, I can click the add dropdown and I can perform work. So now if I'm at the site, I want to perform preventative maintenance. So in the setup, what it is doing, what the software does is it looks at all the inventory at that location, and then it looks at the maintenance type, in this case preventative maintenance, and all your worksheet templates in the setup. If there's an inventory item for that worksheet template, it brings it down here, right? So in this instance, wind, visually inspect the wind monitor, tipping bucket, doing a test, were the test confirmed in the database, making sure the RHAT and other things are within spec. A good one to actually look at. Let's just go back, to workbooks and look at one that has a pressure transducer. So this is preventative maintenance with a PT. And if we review, so this work has been done, it was actually just done an hour ago. Again, super awesome in order to see this done in real time of, field techs in the field performing maintenance. So you know who's out there and doing what, but let's just review this real quick. And we can see what happened. These are the tasks. Flush the rise to see a good hydraulic contact. And again, this is all configurable on how you want to do maintenance, but a 2-point test was done, right? We've uploaded an Excel document. I can load that Excel document and I can see the calibration to make sure that that item was within calibration, and then preventive maintenance on the tipping bucket. So going back, this was just done an hour ago. We can go back to this site, again, following the breadcrumb, and we get a better idea here of the complete history. So this site, we want to see all the history, and I have maintenance records going back 6 years. So you have a complete history of who did it, when it was done, and we can always go back and review these, add notes to see, what maintenance was performed. Again, this will also be done with worksheets at a specific location if you want to follow a specific item. So to make this make more sense, let's show you how this is configured and kind of the different types of tasks that can be created. Go into configuration, settings. I have the maintenance tab here. And we have all the setup. So you can see it's kind of laid out into 2 different tiles. You have your work orders and your worksheets, and we kind of showed you how those are separate. And again, completely configurable. On the work order side, work order types, all these types are configured by the user. So in this instance, we have 9. You can have 2. You can have as many as you want to meet your needs. Work order priorities, low, medium, high, however the priorities need to be, and status. On the worksheet side, the importance here is maintenance types. How do you perform your maintenance? Is it preventive maintenance, startup? Is it by rounds? Bench testing, calibration, breakdown maintenance? What's important here to know is based on the maintenance type defines the work that is going to be performed on an inventory item. And this is all then associated with your worksheet templates. So worksheet templates is kind of the underlying way that all this, what the work you performed is outlined in the software. So it's category and model based. Category is much easier, right? So, we showed on the inventory side that, the pressure transducer category had 15 different PTs. Well, instead of making, the work you do to a PT to 15 different models, you do it to the category, right? However, if there's a specific model that may have an additional step, you can create a worksheet template model, and the model will supersede the category. So if you perform work at a location and there is a worksheet template for that model, it'll bring in this template rather than the category. If it is not for that model, it'll bring in the category. So just an easier way to make it more simpler on setting up the worksheets, but just know, right, if you have a specific model that may have a different step or something's different, you can create a separate worksheet just for that model. So let's just take a look here at preventive maintenance for a PT. So we're in the worksheet template. These are our tasks. Right? We have 3 tasks to do for a pressure transducer for preventative maintenance. Right? We have flush the riser, 2-point test, and did a pass-fail. What I do want to show you is, you can change the order of these, how they show up to the user. But I just wanted to show you the different types of inputs. So when you're creating a task, you can add anything from text box to areas, date times, drop downs, all sorts of different inputs. Think of text box as a battery voltage, a watt meter reading, more of a smaller input. Text area, would be text, maybe describe the issue. Date time, right? Sometimes we maybe perform maintenance and we need to know the exact time that we activated the system, but you don't enter your workbook till later. So you can go back and say, hey, at this time, the system was activated. Drop downs, whatever you want to drop down, pass, fail, weather type, and so forth. And then also file upload. So a whole bunch of different types of different inputs on how you want your tasks to look. There's one called hidden. Think of hidden as you want to put information in front of your field technician. Maybe it's SDI-12 air codes. You're working on a bubbler, and one of your tasks is to write down if there are any air codes. Well, then you can have it hidden where it's just say, hey, air code 0 means this, air code 1, 3, 5, 7, whatever it is, what the air code means. All of these task inputs have different names and labels and placeholders. You can be as thorough or not thorough here as you want. All these are ways to help assist the field technician when they're entering this information. You can write this as detailed as take your voltmeter, change it to DC voltage, place the red lead on the positive side of the battery and the negative on the black lead on the negative side of the battery. Or, it could be as simple as, read, the battery voltage, how many characters do you want to display to the field tech when they're in the field doing these types of maintenance items. What I do want to point out is back at worksheet templates here, we have, make sure to know the preventative maintenance or the maintenance type. So we were just looking at preventative maintenance for a PT. However, if we do a calibration maintenance for the PT, our tasks are different. So we have perform PT calibration, enter the slope, enter the offset. So we can kind of just get a preview of that, right? We do a PT calibration via an Excel document, we insert the slope and we insert the offset. And again, right, when you perform maintenance, depending on the maintenance type you select, it brings in these worksheet tasks. One for breakdown maintenance may look very different. So let's look at breakdown maintenance for an RHAT sensor. Again, only 3, but if we review this, it's going to be more open-ended because it's hard to show, it's breakdown maintenance. You're discovering and finding out what the problem is. So describe the failure, describe the actions, what you did, and if there's any follow-up. Again, all customizable to meet specific needs. You can have as many tasks as you want. You can only have 1 task. You can have 10. But whatever is needed to make sure the work performed at that item is sufficient. The one thing to note when doing and setting up the maintenance side of the application is the maintenance is only as good as the inventory. If your inventory isn't up to date or your inventory is missing, your maintenance is going to be missing items. Right? I kind of stated before, when you perform work at a location, it looks at all the inventory item at that location, and then based on the maintenance type you selected to perform work, it brings in those worksheet templates. So if you're missing an inventory item, there's not a solar panel at that site, you can't perform work on that solar panel. So just something to keep in the back of your mind when using the utility. So you can see here we have all sorts of our worksheet templates based on our maintenance type here. So everything to bench testing. So we can get on to bench testing, and we can see we have many more inputs here, right? Because we're putting this on the bench and we're looking at load, frequency deviation, all sorts of stuff with the radio. All right, let's go back to templates and then back to the maintenance utility. So again, this is kind of the whole setup of how these things are defined. All right. Lastly, let's just go back to the maintenance dashboard to kind of bring it all together on the maintenance side. So that kind of defines, right, our worksheets are work performed at a specific inventory item. I can filter this again to see all the calibrations. Oh, look, we've done 157 PT calibrations. And again, those are individual items. However, if we go to workbooks, right, that's a group of worksheets. So, think of it as site maintenance. There is an export here, workbook. So what you can do is provide a deliverable or a report based on your maintenance. I'm just going to do this real quick. So I'm going to pick a start date, a due date. So it's going to look for all workbooks performed this month of September. I'm going to include images. And this is a tag. So maybe if you tagged it by maintenance type or thing of that nature, I'm not going to worry about consolidating this. But here you can put a cover page. To make this simple, I'm just going to put cover page. You can obviously, put images, format it, make a very nice cover page, and click OK. And this is all maintenance performed this month. So it looks like only 2, but it's clickable to, a lot of times you may have a whole bunch of tables here, but it brings in the image, it brings in the serial numbers, and then all the worksheets of the work performed. So it is a nice way to give an a summary of, let's get some more information here, of all, a deliverable of all the work performed, maybe for annually. So here we go, we have a lot more work performed over the last month. And then all the information here below. All right, so that sums up the maintenance utility. And I'm going to try to wrap this up in the next 5 minutes to leave time for if there's any questions. Last thing, let's just look at reports. So again, reports are a way to export things into Excel or manipulate the data in other ways. Maybe I just want to see all the, workbooks by date. I want to see all, let's just do all maintenance types for all users. And it's 2 months, I click OK, right? And then I have a list of all the work done. So it's a way to see who's doing what. Again, think about it as those reports of exporting your inventory, running your report by attribute to find out, if you have that bug with that one firmware, you want to know exactly all the locations that have that firmware. All sorts of different types of exports here. So I just want to point that out of all the reports. And then lastly, we have our users up here. So just know when you're configuring users, just like Contrail, there are privilege levels. So for instance, let's just click a user and we can see the privilege level. So less privileges than in Contrail, but if none of the checkboxes are checked, you can give read-only privileges. So you maybe want someone to only be able to view the inventory, view the items. Editor, you want to be able to create work orders, add inventory, manage, edit users and configurations, and then settings would be kind of that server level ability to add different clients and things associated with it. API keys and logs, these are new things. A couple months ago, I think we released the feature, if you guys are not aware, to kind of tie inventory into Contrail. So creating a link to link your inventory item maybe to a sensor in Contrail. So that's used by using the API keys. Again, if you are an inventory user and want help with that, these are things that we can discuss. However, I'm going to wrap it up right there and get some time back to everyone's day and allow for any questions. Hope you enjoyed the presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to ask or contact us offline, and we'd be happy to give a more thorough demonstration, to see how the software can meet your needs in your maintenance or inventory aspects. See, Lindsay, I don't know if there's any questions in the poll.
There is not any questions as of present, but let's stay online for just a few more minutes, see if anybody has any questions coming up. Thank you guys again so much for joining us today. I do want to give a quick plug for our next month's webinar. It's going to be on Contrail Camera, bringing greater visual insights and situational awareness, and this will take place on Thursday, October 14th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and wherever you fall in between. So please put that on your calendars. Join us next month for Contrail Camera. And any questions? Do we have any questions for Scott today? We'll hang out for a few more minutes online, see if anybody has anything. Otherwise, again, please feel free to contact us at contrail.support@onereen.com.